All right, before I even dive in, I would love to know a little bit more about you all, a little bit more about the audience. So if you don't mind, raise your hand if you have ever reread an email at least 5 times before clicking send and still thought about it afterwards. Yeah, same, totally. Raise your hand if you have ever been in a conversation that you actually didn't know much about, but you nodded along and just kind of hoped you didn't get any follow-up questions. Oh, honest, too. Nicely done, y'all. Love it. Let's see. Raise your hand if you have ever had to fully reinvent yourself, like a new career, a new state, a new major, a new activity, sport, anything like that. Any reinventors here? All right, we got a few of you. There's going to be more in a few years, I would bet. But I am a constant reinventor. I've had to reinvent myself multiple times, and I actually had AI depict one of my reinventions for me, and it gave this nice person a winding path up a mountain. How nice of them. I don't know who she is, but I hope she's having a good day. Nonetheless, so how I started my educational background was with British literature. The reason that I have a minor in British literature is honestly, I just like to read. I was in college. I kept taking British literature classes, realized I need 1 more credit in order to have a minor in British literature. Thus, I have a minor in British literature. That's as extensive as that one gets. But marketing was my major. And the main reason I majored in marketing is because when I was going to school, truthfully, that's what the adults I knew did. All of the adults in my life, from my neighbors to my parents, my older siblings at the time, everyone was really involved in the world of business, so that's what I defaulted to. It just kind of made sense. And really, I stuck with it for quite some time. I really enjoyed my career in marketing. I went into marketing research, and I'm so blessed to have worked with some great companies that truly espouse their values, made some friends, got some great mentors. But every day I would walk into work and just have this gut instinct, like, that's not where I'm supposed to be. You know, it was just like, this is not my calling. It's not where I was being drawn to go every single day for the rest of my life. And it was all just a pull somewhere else. And it took about 12 years of going through that whole feeling on a pretty consistent basis before I decided to go back to school and get my master's in teaching in biological sciences. So when I picked my program for my master's in teaching in biological sciences, the main reason I picked the program I went into was because of this horse. It's called Przewalski's horse, or more commonly known as Taki. And this horse is the only species of wild horse that still exists on planet Earth. Interestingly, though, it was extinct in the wild, but in several zoos across the globe. And one of the main reasons that zoos exist is for conservation. It's so that these species can exist in a safe space. So should they go extinct in the wild, they can hopefully be reintroduced. And that's exactly what started happening. So in the early 90s, several zoos came together and decided to start reintroducing the Taki in their native habitat. And I got to learn from these people. I got to go on the ground in their native habitat, which I should mention is in the heart of Mongolia. It's in Hustai National Park in the middle of Mongolia, where you have no electricity, no cell phone reception. We had an emergency. We had to go to the top of the nearest hill, hold up a satellite telephone, and wait for the satellite cross by. It's a little different than here, including the fact that we lived in yurts. It's a nomadic culture where we were. So this is what a yurt looks like on the inside. It's pretty nice, right? It's actually not bad whatsoever. I mean, there's a bed, there's a couch, you can see a dresser. If you look close enough, you can even see that there's a little table and chairs. They have a patio set. It's pretty nice. But this is the Mongolian yurt. This is what our Mongolian researchers were actually in. Meanwhile, our American version looked like this. This is what we came with. We did not come with the furniture. We didn't have any of that. In fact, I forgot to bring a pillow. So if I'm being honest, I actually had to steal one off the plane. So it was a little different because we don't know how to yurt as well, all right? We don't have the classy yurt. But it was incredible. We had a little yurt town of about 5 of us, and we all traveled around. We followed the horses, and we really got to learn about each other. One of the perks of having no electricity is you get to learn so much about each other's cultures and upbringing and really differing and similar points of view about the planet. And in one of our conversations, one of the Mongolian people said something so riveting, and yet it was shocking because it's something we learn in first grade. But I don't know about you, but it's something I constantly forget. And it's just that humans are mammals. I think we often think that we are beyond being a species, but at the end of the day, that's what we are. We're just mammals on planet Earth. We have evolved genetically to a certain point, but truthfully, our planet is rotating and changing so consistently and rapidly that a lot of scientists would actually say that cultural adaptations are the way that we keep up. Technology and social connection, things like that. But one of the interesting things about being a mammal is one of the ways our species has survived for so long is because we work together. I depend on your strengths, you depend on mine. I don't know about you, I did not lay the foundation of this building that we're somehow in. So we are constantly depending on each other in order to succeed and in order to thrive. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman says it this way, that becoming more socially connected is essential for our survival. It is truthfully how our species as humans has survived for time immemorial. And beyond that, our culture constantly reinforces this. I mean, at a very young age, we're taught to raise our hand. I tested you on that earlier. You did a great job, by the way. Well done. But then we also are taught to walk in a single file line or be gold star kids or look for A++s. We want to be accepted because, again, that's in our genetics. That's in our code. That is what we are known for. That's how we survive, right? I want you to like me, and you probably want me to like you because we need to be connected. We need to be working together. But sometimes we need to move beyond that. Sometimes we have to move out of that pattern of acceptance and out of that pattern of permission. Sometimes we have to decide to do the thing that doesn't feel correct to the rest of society because our courage and our audacity really needs to pull us out of that pattern. So sometimes we have to move out of that pattern of permission and that pattern of approval to really truly follow what our internal direction is telling us to do. And so there are some ways that you can recognize that there are times that you need to be listening to that internal direction a little bit more than listening to what society is truly telling you to do. And the first is if you're saying things like, I should, or this makes sense, rather than I want to. So if you're saying things like, I should go into this major, or it makes sense that I take this next step in my path of life, or I should be moving to this state or this area. But what do you actually truly want to do? Listen to your own self and your own verbiage, because if you're saying I want to, then that's probably your internal direction, and that's great. That's what you should be following. If you are listening to input from other people before listening to yourself, that is the difference between pattern of permission versus your own internal direction. So for example, you need to be able to think through your own decision making before you say, I don't know, what do you think I should do? You need to be able to really process what your gut and your heart and your brain is telling you to do before you say, this is what my mentors and friends and people that care about me are trying to tell you to do. There is a good space for that as well. There's a great space for mentors and advice, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it shouldn't be your first resort. Your first resort needs to be yourself. If you are waiting for clarity versus taking action, waiting for clarity is when you're in the pattern of permission. If you're weighing the pros and cons and dancing in circles around a decision, that is waiting for the pattern of permission to be in the alignment with your internal direction, which sometimes just isn't going to happen. Internal direction means action. That means you're moving forward. That means you're moving ahead. So it's quite different, because if you're dancing around and really trying to wait for your pattern of permission to be in alignment, you need to move ahead. You need to listen to that internal direction first. And then lastly, contraction versus expansion. And this is just a fascinating thing. I'm going to go very high level if we have any neuroscientists in the office or in the audience here. But we have this thing called an amygdala. And basically what happens in your amygdala is it's your fight or flight response. And it activates super quickly before you're even able to mentally process what is happening. So your entire body activates and contracts and prepares to fight or flight when it feels a threat, when it feels something that is against what your internal direction is telling you to do. So contraction is when your entire body, you might even feel yourself go into fists, because that is your body contracting. Whereas internal direction feels like expansion. It feels like an exhale. It feels like relaxation. So if you are ever feeling any one or all four of these things, that is likely a sign that maybe your internal direction is at odds with your pattern of permission. So there are some actions you can take to truly move out of this pattern of permission. The first is to stop asking for input. Interestingly, not just on the big things, but I also mean on the small things, because patterns take repetition and consistency. So if you're consistently asking your friends what color you should wear, or your family if you should go to a specific event, if you're constantly looking for input on those smaller things, your pattern of permission is building in your own nervous system and your body and your brain. So you need to train it to say, no, I can be safe making my own decisions. I can be bold enough to move forward with my own internal direction leading the way. Share at 80% rather than 100% if you're really making a big decision where you do want input from mentors. I'll share this as an example just from my own personal experience. So I knew I wanted to teach about science. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get a master's in teaching in biological sciences. And I shared that with a lot of the people that truly care about me at 80%. So that was able to make the rest of my decision slightly dynamic. So when I was talking to experts, I realized pretty quickly I am not designed, for example, to teach elementary schoolers. Heroes on our planet, it's not for me. That's great. It's a different person, different skill set. I am designed to teach adults. I now teach business leaders about biology and bringing biology into their business. That is what I do for a living. I was able to adapt the nuances, but the basis of the decision was my own internal direction. So what's important that you recognize when we're going through all this process is that you don't feel your way out of a pattern. You actually act your way out of a pattern. It takes intentional change and action so that you can actually move ahead. Because what you need to remember is that when you make one small change, when you change the pattern, you're able to change everything before you. So you can send the email and move on with your day. Or you can be part of those conversations where you don't know much of that information and maybe meet it with curiosity rather than false confidence. Maybe learn something new. It might even change your perspective. Or you can reinvent yourself in ways that truly makes sense quickly, and your entire future ahead of you will be completely adapted to what belongs. Because what you need to remember is that if you change the pattern that's been decided for you, you change everything that follows. Thank you.